Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Well, there are unanswered questions over the government's design for the next Bridgewater Bridge. The absence of rail at the new river crossing has drawn fierce criticism, while there are also unknowns over heritage and maintenance costs.
The debate is as long as the Bridgewater Bridge.
There is clearly a compelling case for the restoration of passenger rail in Greater Hobart.
But forget about it happening over the River Derwent. Designs released yesterday show just roads, not rail, if the current bridge is demolished.
Rail has never been proposed to be provided for across the new river crossing, but we have made a specific decision in protecting what we call the rail corridor.
The government has flirted with the idea of light rail before.
That work starts today. Essentially, as a government, we will now engage with the federal government on building a business case for the northern suburbs light rail here in Hobart. It's very exciting.
I think a lot of people will be feeling let down and feeling that the government has not been honest with us about its interest in light rail.
Other issues for the new bridge? The causeway holds heritage values, and if the current bridge is left standing alongside the new one, who pays to maintain it?
We will cross that bridge when we get to it.
The Derwent Valley Council wants the old bridge knocked down. The Brighton Council still hopes light rail is within reach. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
A Tasmania police officer has been suspended from duty as he faces drug and stealing charges. The 33-year-old male constable from the south was today charged with possessing and using a controlled substance and stealing. He's been suspended on full pay following an internal investigation. The officer will appear in the Hobart Magistrates Court in November. As Tasmanian businesses reopen post-COVID-19, police are cracking down on shoplifting. Retailers say some offenders still manage to walk out of the store with stolen goods despite security precautions in place, and certain items are a big target.
Patrolling through the centre of Hobart's bustling mall, these police officers are keeping an eye out for thieves as crowds return to shopping hotspots.
What we're experiencing is obviously people flooding back to the shops, as they should be, but we're also experiencing some shop stealing. Some of the top items are makeup is one of them, perfume, meat and alcohol.
Local retailers say shoplifting can cause major headaches for the business.
I've actually had a lady last week that notified us when we had someone just walk straight out the store with everything, but we did manage to get the bag back. In here we have like security decks and security gates and things like that to try and alert us when it happens, but I mean sometimes that's not the case at all.
With the impacts felt in-store and further out.
So it does affect what we have in store, and if a particular customer wants that item we don't have it, it does make it a bit harder to get that for somebody, but yeah, it does take an effect.
But it also influences the community as a whole in relation to maintaining employment for businesses, particularly small businesses, to keep employees on in these really, really tough times for Tasmanians.
Authorities also urging the public to help police by reporting any theft witnessed and to look out for dodgy deals on sites such as Facebook and Gumtree.
We really need to be calling this sort of behaviour out, and people who are out there flogging goods that they've stolen is just not on. So we're really encouraging the community to take action.
And if the price is low or sounds too good to be true, it usually is.
Ruby Kamane, 7 Tasmania News.
The Tasmanian Country newspaper has been saved from extinction, with a local buyer swooping in to take over the masthead. But that new buyer is a public relations firm involved in other business interests. Font PR is reassuring readers the publication will remain independent under its ownership.
A local institution in new hands, the Tasmanian Country newspaper revived.
Same great paper, same great product, now 100% Tasmanian owned. So it's a great day for regional and rural Tasmania.
For around 40 years, it's been known as a farmer's Bible, but in May, News Corp announced it was one of dozens of regional papers axed across Australia. Today, Tasmanian public relations firm Font PR confirming it's taking control of the masthead.
We've got journalists employed, we've got publications back in print that would have otherwise been closed. I think that's a really good thing.
The challenge for Font PR and that newspaper is how do you not become a public relations vessel and that you become a news vessel. And if they can manage that, it's good.
Brad Stansfield spent 8 years as former Premier Will Hodgman's Chief of Staff. Now he's a partner in the PR firm, managing communication for various clients. He's defending the independence of the purchase, saying the firm will keep the newspaper at arm's length from its business interests.
Carolyn's been independently editing the newspaper for 18 years. I don't see that changing.
The test will really be a local council election or a community concern or something a little bit divisive, and then we'll see if they can provide the independent journalism that they're promising.
Readers don't want to see TasCountry become a vehicle for paid advertising dressed up as journalism.
It's a free country, isn't it? It's, I think, only a good thing that the readership, traditional readership of Tasmanian Country, have the opportunity to decide if they want to continue to read that newspaper.
It's the 6th publication on Font PR's books, and it hasn't ruled out adding more down the track.
No plans, but you never say never.
Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
One of Tasmania's most notable industry landmarks has been given heritage listing. The Beaconsfield gold mine has been recognised for its importance and significance as the state's most productive gold mine. The provisional entry into the Heritage Register is open for public debate over the coming months before a decision is made about a permanent listing. Australia's seasonal bushfire outlook is predicting very different conditions to what the country experienced last year. The Bushfire and Natural Hazards Research Centre reports an increased likelihood of wetter than average conditions in the east over coming months, a big difference from a dry 2019. Here in Tasmania, it says autumn rains have significantly eased moisture deficits in the north and east, and there was good progress on planned hazard reduction burns. One of Tasmania's most significant World War I veterans has been remembered as part of a school project. Alfred Herbst had the odds stacked against him before he even signed up for battle, and a local student is making sure his story doesn't go unheard.
Fresh-faced and brave just like the other soldiers, but Alfred Herbst was special.
Apparently he was the first Aboriginal soldier to enlist in Tasmania.
He had to enlist under European descent because he was of European descent, but if you were to enlist as an Aboriginal, you wouldn't have gotten through.
His leadership qualities on the front line quickly saw him rise to officer rank. Year 11 student Will Scott dug deep into the past of the World War I veteran and the underlying racial tensions that surrounded Indigenous soldiers.
They were shunned and outcast, and they weren't allowed into RSL clubs until at least 1949, I think.
He was one of 6 students handpicked to fly overseas as part of the Frank McDonald Prize. The journey led him to Herbst's final resting place, killed in the Battle of Mouquet Farm.
It was quite sombre and emotional for me. It was quite a solemn moment.
However, the soldier's legacy will live on, with Will's research published in a short book.
It brings forth the knowledge and history and culture that Alfred deserves, I think.
His descendants argue his story and sacrifice deserves a statue.
He was the first Aboriginal person to be made an officer in the Great War. I mean, how fantastic would that be to have someone like him immortalised in some way, shape or form?
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
AFL boss Gil McLachlan has reaffirmed Tasmania could host AFL games this year as the league tries to outrun the virus by playing in COVID-safe parts of the country. McLachlan says he'll be speaking again with the state government.
It doesn't rule out us playing games from Queensland in Northern Territory or Tasmania, so we'll continue to pick up conversations with those governments. So I want to be clear about that we are able to, under the right circumstances, if with agreement with those governments, fulfil agreements in those states, and we're in ongoing discussions.
Premier Peter Gutwein has previously said he will be guided by public health advice when making a decision on whether to host AFL games. To the State League now. Glenorchy is taking a cautious approach to its clash with Lauderdale. The Pies are likely to rest Jay Bowden for another week, while the Southern Bombers are poised to welcome back a key figure.
After a convincing win over Eastern Shore rival Clarence, Lauderdale is looking like a team which can finally claim a maiden flag. Those hopes only helped by the impending return of Bryce Walsh.
He nicked his groin early last week and he tried to get up for the weekend. but didn't end up getting up in the end. So he'll push his case this week, and I dare say he'll play this weekend.
Someone less likely to play, three-time premiership hero Jay Bowden. Pies coach Paul Kennedy wants to prolong the playing life of his star.
It's a body management around making sure some issues around his core don't degenerate over the course of the season. We want to make sure that he's up and flying when he's playing.
The Pies lost their season opener against Launceston, and key players aren't due back just yet, Braden Webb being one, while Daniel Joseph will remain in the reserves for now as he works back from a knee reconstruction.
He said, no, I definitely need another run or two.
Lauderdale still senses danger.
I wouldn't say we're smelling blood. We know it's going to be a hard-fought game, and if we're not on our best, we could get knocked off.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Hobart will have an extra Big Bash game this year thanks to the Hurricanes scrapping its home away from home in Alice Springs. But fans wanting to watch the Women's League are shortchanged, with just one weekend of action set to take place in the state.
By comparison, local WBBL fans were spoiled for choice last season with 5 games played across Hobart, Launceston and Burnie. This year, the Hurricanes will play just 2 games here, both on the same weekend against the Melbourne Renegades and the Sydney Sixers. A venue hasn't been locked in.
There are some efficiencies that come with that, but we're really excited. It's a big year for the WBBL off the back of obviously a huge World Cup.
The fixture for the men's is far more positive. Unlike last season, the Hurricanes won't sell a home game to Alice Springs, meaning Blunston Arena will host 5 fixtures. The first on December 7 against the Melbourne Renegades, before the popular Christmas Eve clash against the Stars. The Sydney Sixers, Adelaide Strikers and Sydney Thunder will also visit in January. 2 games will be played in Launceston, the Perth Scorchers visiting on December 16 and the Brisbane Heat on January 21. But it's the marquee Christmas Eve clash which the Hurricanes were really keen to lock down.
The Hurricanes are really passionate about that slot. I think they've started to build it over a number of years and creating other little events around it. I know they had a Carols event tied to it last year.
The first 5 games of the Big Bash season will directly follow each day's play in the first test against India, serving up a smorgasbord of action to starving cricket fans. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening, mostly fine today. Just a light shower or 2 over the east coast. Hobart and Devonport 12 today, Launceston 13 and Burnie 11. Flinders Island our top with 14. King Island, Smithton and St Helens 13 degrees. Low Head and Friendly Beaches 12, Strawn 11. Lyawini ranged from -5 to a top of 6. High-level cloud crosses in the easterly airstream across the state, with low cloud clinging to the east coast and the southeast. Mid to low-level cloud sits along the Victorian and New South Wales coasts, a disintegrating band of cloud over South Australia with lower cloud over southern WA. Tomorrow, the large high has ridges spreading all over the place, a cold front and trough to the west, just clipping WA. Now, the winds tomorrow, mostly light and variable, but getting up to the east-southeasterly to 20 knots over the east coast. A 3-metre swell there in the east, but light and variable winds inland and across the west and south. Forecast for tomorrow, a light shower or 2 for Hobart, 11 the top, 12 the high for Sydney, a light shower. Possible light shower for New Norfolk and 10 degrees. Launceston, 13 with early fog, partly cloudy for Devonport, 13 as well, and 11 the top for Campbelltown. Burnie expecting a high of 13, mostly sunny. A foggy start for Strawn, but OK later, a top of 12 and 13 for Smithton. St Helens tomorrow, a shower or 2 and 13. 12 for Swansea, a shower for Fingal, 11 the high. On Friday, fine until possible showers develop over the northwest later in the day. Showers on Saturday over the north, increasing before extending to western and central areas. And on Sunday, a few showers statewide, more likely over the west, central and north. Showers and a late storm in Perth. A sunny 16 in Adelaide, morning fog in Melbourne, and a windy, showery day in Sydney. And further north, mainly fine and sunny, but a cold start in Alice Springs. Hobart, cloudy and 9, mostly cloudy in Launceston, 8 at the moment, and 6 degrees in Devonport. Kim, that's my weather bumble for the evening. I'm off for some voice lessons.
You don't need them, Merv. We all have good days and bad days.